4. Windsor Bratt held up his Corellian work identification card for the First Order's guards inspection. It was the third checkpoint that he had passed through that morning on his relatively short walk from his apartment to the nearer part of Coronet City to the offices of Corellian Engineering Corporation where he worked, but he didn't mind. He always enjoyed the inevitable moment when the guard's expression changed from mild superiority to chagrined humility as he belatedly realized that Windsor was an important person. The way the guard would straighten on his board slouch, the sudden anxiety that would pale his face as he wondered if Windsor would find fault in his performance and report him to his supervisors. Today, Windsor found that kind of elected feel particularly soothing, a balm on what had otherwise been a less than ideal morning. Windsor had spent the early hours of the day at his breakfast table and contemplating whether he should listen to the communication that had been waiting for him when he woke that morning. He'd come from his hometown of Bella Vista, which meant it could be only from one person, his mother. He had done his best to sever all ties to the town and people of his birth, but his mother still managed to find him again and again. This time it had taken her 6 months, and in that 6 months he had accomplished so much. He'd secured a respectable job with the Corellian Engineering Corporation in the middle management as head clerk in the records department. He'd been able to keep that job when the First Order had come in and taken over the company, recommissioning it to build warships for the burgeoning power. So many of his co-workers had been eliminated after re-employment interviews, but Windsor had not. In fact, his interviewer, a relentlessly ordered woman from Alaskan, had told him he was exactly the kind of citizen the First Order was looking for. He felt immense pleasure at that. He had always known he was destined for more than Corellia, but to someone like her to tell him so, he floated happily around the nearly deserted office for days. And then it happened. Windsor had been called out of records and moved into a position of prestige, as he so rightly deserved. He was now the First Order's executive records officer on Corellia, which, if he was honest, was essentially the same job he had had before, but it did come with a new title, 2 assistants, and eventually a raise. At least he thought it might, once his supervisors superiors realized that he was a man of quality, and he did have his own office with a view of the master ship bay that was part of the larger complex. No one could deny that meant something. He had wanted a window that overlooked the city, but had been told that was only for those of higher title. Rather than be disappointed, he had told himself that it was something to strive for, her next step on his climb to the top. Executive records officer was great, but it was just the beginning. There was so much more to accomplish. He merely needed to find a way to impress his peers in the First Order, as he had done in his interview. And then, truly, there was nothing in the galaxy that could hold him back, except, perhaps, his mother. He had finally deleted communications from her unopened. It was for the best. The sooner she realized he wanted nothing to do with her or anything else in his past, the better. Besides, the First Order was the only family he needed now. He would prove himself worthy their high regard soon enough. Brady? Came a voice from behind him. Winter froze, horrified. His eyes met those of the guard, who still held his ID, and the guard smirked slightly. Winter felt his stomach drop and his face red in humiliation, but he held his composure as he turned to face the person who had called him by the old nickname that he loathed. It was a woman, pale, short, dark-haired, like himself. Blue-gray eyes crinkled in a friendly hello. "I thought I recognized you," she said, voice bright. "I wasn't sure in that fancy uniform, but wow." Her eyes traveled over him, no doubt, noticing his flesh, well-oiled haircut, and precise creases in his trousers and jacket. Finally, her eyes rested on the badge on the left side of his chest. You working for the First Order, Brady?" she asked him, both revulsion and admiration in her voice. Or at least he thought it was admiration. What could it be? Else could it be? Jealousy, perhaps. He took in her dirty gray jumpsuit and heavy boots, the loop of her tool belt slung around her hips, the grease stain under her nails. A mechanic, surely. Someone working in the shipyards as so many Corellians did now, which meant she too worked for the First Order, or more likely as a contractor under some mandatory contract. He had seen those contracts, received and verified and filed them, as he did so many documents for the First Order. The terms were usually heavily biased towards the First Order, but it wasn't like the Corellian contractors had much of a choice. These days they either worked for the First Order or they starved. The smart ones knew the future when they saw it, and the rest fell along the way, like so many weeds to be pruned. But how did she know him? And by that abominable nickname? It was something the children had called him at the religious center in Bella Vista, the one his mother had insisted he attend for most of his life until he was old enough to lead the fine work in Coronet City. He had vivid memories of wanting to burn the low-slung, whitewashed building down, all his classmates still outside, including this mechanic, no doubt. "The name's Wincher," he said, letting his disdain hide some of his embarrassment. "It's always been Wincher." Sure, she says. She said, shrugging like it wasn't a big deal to her either way. "I'm Nava, remember me?" He did now, placing that dark mass of curls and the impish face as one of his former classmates, but he'd never give her the satisfaction. "I cannot say that I do remember you, Nava. Bella Vista was so long ago." "Ah, but you knew I was from Bella Vista," she said slyly. He pressed his lips together, annoyed. The checkpoint guard cleared his throat. "Is there a problem?" Wischer asked, irritated as he whipped back around to face the man. He expected more smirking, but the guard had a more serious look on his face, and his tone was respectful. "No problem, sir," the guard said, sliding Wincher's ID3 from his handheld datapad. "Your security clearance is in order for entry to Building 2. You may pass at your convenience." "Oh?" Wincher said, stood straighter. "Well, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?" The guard gave him a quizzical look as he handed his card back. The Wincher had said too much. Acted like a novice instead of an executive records officer. And in front of this Nava person, he was ashamed. He had slid his identification into the pocket of his neatly pressed jacket that bore the symbol of the First Order on his chest, where his Corellian Engineering Corporation logo had once been, and gave the guard a curt nod. But before he could walk away, the woman leaned me close. "Deeper into the creature's maw, eh, Brady?" Nava whispered. Well, I guess we do what we must to survive the occupation. Just remember who's got your back. She squeezed his arm through his jacket and he flinched. Who had his back? It certainly wasn't anyone from Bella Vista. He thought about reporting Nava to someone, but what would be the charge? She'd squeeze his arm, so perhaps he could claim she assaulted him. But if he did, no doubt she would say she knew him, perhaps even that they were childhood friends. He shuddered at the thought. The guard cleared his throat meaningfully. Winter could hear the checkpoint line behind him getting restless. Someone wondered loudly what was taking so long. Do you need an escort ability too, sir? The guard asked. The question was polite enough, but was that a hint of mockery in his voice? Winter thought it was. No need, Winter said dismissively. I know the way. He stepped around the guard with a tight smile and hurried on his way. He didn't bother to say goodbye to that woman Nava. But then, why wouldn't he? She was no one. The rest of the walk to his office was uneventful. The halls were busy, but everyone was focused on their own work and paid Winter no mind. He did make brief eye contact with a tall, gray-haired man who strode by, surrounded by a deployment of stormtroopers in their thrillingly intimidating armor. The man looked very important, and Winter gave him a sharp nod as he passed, as one would to a peer. The man must have not seen him, though, because he did not return the gesture. Well, Winter would have to make more of an effort next time. He opened the heavy door to his office with another swipe of his identification card and entered. Once through, he tapped the control button that held the door open. His office itself was not very large. It was better than the cubicle he had occupied before his promotion. One wall contained a long, high window out into the ship bay. If he stood on his toes, he could see the busy protection floor below, but he rarely did that. He had no interest in ships or the people and droid to build them. The other walls of his office were taken up by filing shelves holding magnetic tapes and holographic recordings. They crowded his office like expectant ladies waiting for his particular attention. Each record had to be reviewed, approved, assigned a location, and ultimately signed off on by him. He had thought to delegate some of the work, and he still might, but for now he liked to remain hands-on. He dared not leave anything to his current staff, of which he had exactly two. One was a First Order cadet named Monty Calais, fresh off some Corellian town Winter had never heard of. He was competent enough, but strange. He kept his dark curly hair cut appropriately short, and his uniform was impeccable, much like Winter's, but he kept asking Winter to come to lunch or join him for a drink at one of the local cantinas after work, as if he didn't understand that there should be a deep and unassailable separation between management and staff. Winter had not made up his mind about Monty Calais yet. His other employee, well, he definitely had an opinion about her. First of all, Yama was young. Winter wasn't exactly old by Corellian standards, or any standards really. He had been born the year after the Battle of Yavin, which is 1 ABY, a child of prosperous, if overly devout, Bella Vista middle-class family. But this girl, was a decade younger than him, at least, about 11 BBY. She had obviously been plucked from the streets of Coronet City for some reason beyond Winter's ken. A secret talent or a political connection was dubious, so perhaps she had captured the merciful attention of some officer and been given a future with the First Order that would have otherwise been beyond her grasp. However, such kindness had clearly been a mistake. It wasn't just the girl's appearance that made her unsuitable, but also her behavior. Her manners were rough and often non-existent. She fidgeted relentlessly while waiting for her orders, and she frequently gave him incredulous looks when he asked her to simply do her job. He wasn't sure why she had been assigned to him by his superiors, but he was not in a position to have her removed from her service. However, he kept copious notes on her every fault, so that if the opportunity to review her record ever arose, he would be prepared. Still, he found it difficult to spend any time around her without getting annoyed. Wincher removed his outer jacket and hung it from the hook on the wall closet to the door. Next, he removed his gloves, taking a moment to brush a naked hand across the fabric, straightening any wrinkles that might have attempted to form since his last screaming small strap below. He tugged his black tunic smooth and, removing a white cloth from his flared pocket, wiped his high boots to a shine. He slipped the cloth back in his shoes pocket. Only then did he turn to face the work of the day. 2 new boxes of records had been placed on his desk that had not been there yesterday when he left. He approached the boxes warily and peered inside. Each one held a disorganized pile of what looked like palm-sized black metal boxes. He reached in, turning a few over with careful fingers. No labels. He looked more closely at the storage boxes themselves. No labels on those, either. He could feel a small scream rising in his throat. Who would dare dump these here without any identifying features? As if he didn't know. Yama, he called, and then a little louder. Yama! A scurrying sound from the outer office, and then, breathless, as if she had been running, Yama entered through his open office door. Yeah, she asked. Yes, Executive Records Officer Bratt. Sir, what do you want? Wincher's anger flared, but he made himself take 3 deep breaths, just as he had learned at the religious center of his youth, before he turned and spoke. Did you leave these boxes on my desk? He asked, admiring how calm his voice sounded. The girl was wearing her black cadet uniform, but the buckle on her belt was clearly tarnished, and she slung it too low. It sat at a jaunty angle across her hips instead of tightly around at her waist. Was she attempting to make her uniform fashionable? Surely not. And her hair, regulation required her tight curls be oiled and slicked back against her head. Today her orange hair was parted down the middle and tied back into 2 identical puffs. Your hair is not in regulation, Wincher said. What? The girl raised a hand to her hair. Oh yeah, sorry. Was running a bit late this morning and didn't have time to change it up. But it's neat, not my face, right? So it'll do. It will not do. Yama opened her mouth as if to protest, but she must have caught the censure, and Wincher stared and thought better. Sorry, she said, lowering her head. Wincher smiled slightly. He took a step forward and rested a heavy hand on the girl's shoulder. She flinched slightly, which made him smile a bit more. Look around you, Yama. He said, do you understand where you are? He didn't meet his eyes, but she nodded more rosely. Do you apologize if I said that wrong? I don't think you do. He lifted his hand off her shoulder and paced around his desk, gearing up for his favorite speech. It had been a few weeks since he'd had to lecture the girl on the importance of the order, on the vital role each and every one of them played in maintaining the impeccable reputation of the First Order here in Corellia, on how their presentation must be above reproach at all times. Clearly, it had been too long. All the creatures are ruled by the strongest among them, he said, settling in his chair. It is the way of nature. The strong survive and the weak are crushed. Now, how do we identify the strong among us? Is it only the largest, the most muscular, No, Yama. It is the ones with the most discipline. The ones that can master their own base instincts and project. He slammed a hand down on his desk. And she jumped. Power. He sat back and adjusted his cups. Do you want to be one of the powerful, or do you want to be crushed by your weakness? She mumbled something he couldn't quite hear. Speak up, he said, exasperated. You certainly won't project power by muttering to yourself. I want to be powerful, she said, her voice just a fraction higher than before. Yes, you should, but you won't do it by breaking the rules. Now, tie your belt. That's right, and pull your hair back. Yama finished tightening her belt and smoothed a hand over her hair. I'll need a brush. Winter sighed. I suppose you will. Well, it can't be helped today. Then, but please, don't leave the offices and let anyone see you. It won't happen again, she promised. I should hope not. He folded his hands across his desk in a way that he thought looked benevolently paternal. I can't always waste my time trying to teach you, Yama. I have important work to do. She nodded again, still not meeting his eyes. Well, good that she feared him. She should. But he thought she would have a bit more backbone than this. Another layer disappointed. You're dismissed, he said, torn between disgust and a mild admiration at how effectively he had handled the situation. He really was leadership material. If his superiors could see how he'd taken this wayward girl in hand, surely they would be impressed. Oh, and take these bosses with you, Yama. Find out where they came from and organize the tapes within. I want them labeled. Origin, date, and they all need a provenance. I won't have people saying I'm not doing my job, he said, emphasizing the my just enough to make her hunch her shoulders in the same. He clasped his hands together. Go! The girl scurried forward to take the boxes. She balanced one on top of the other and slid her arms under the bottom box to pick them up, both up at the same time. The load was clearly too bulky to carry all at once, but Winter just watched her struggle. He could have suggested she make 2 trips or even, stars forbid, help her. He watched her take one awkward step, then another, toward the door, and then with a bitter flash of unsurprise, he watched the girl shriek as she dropped both boxes on the floor. Black tape skid across the polished stones. He felt one come to rest against the tip of his shoe under her desk. He delicately towed it back in her direction. Yama crawled around on hands and knees, retrieving the escape records. He could hear what sounded distinctly like hot, breathy sobs as she did so. They still made no move to help her. How would she ever learn not to be weak if people fixed all her problems for her? No, he was doing her a favor, teaching her one small lesson. What today would be a lifetime of lessons she must learn. She intended to rise anything beyond a common Corellian street girl. It was the same lesson in humiliation he had learned from his classmates back in Bella Vista. The same that all children had learned. They either let it break them or used to forge them into someone stronger, someone more worthy of power. He waited till she was done before he spoke. Of course, I'll have this to your permanent record. An appropriate disciplinary action will no doubt be taken. It's for your own good, really. You see that, don't you? The girl said nothing, and he didn't expect her to. She bent and finished gathering the boxes, this time more steadily, having already learned her lesson, locked the door. Just as she passed through, Winter started in play, Monty Clay entered. The two sisters briefly locked eyes, and Winter thought he saw a flash of something unexpected in Monty's face. Was that disapproval? No, Monty had never gotten in trouble. Had only admired Winter, but for a moment he thought he saw something that looked like revulsion. Well, that look must have been meant for Yama, not him. Yes, that made much more sense. After all, it was her behavior that was in question, not his. Wincher was blameless. That's the end of chapter 4. Make sure to follow this series by subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell icon. I do apologize that this is a day late, but please bear with me. I will read more soon. But until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.